Oh, well, this has got to be embarrassing for the mayor of Seattle. The other night, she gave an interview where she said that Trump was doing a dry run for martial law at literally the same time Trump was withdrawing the federal forces from Seattle to avoid an escalation. Oops, spoke too soon. Well, here's the big news. Donald Trump is now negotiating with Oregon to pull the federal officers out of the courthouse, the heightened officer presence. I believe the U.S. Marshals would still remain because Mayor Ted Wheeler called for a ceasefire, which is kind of funny because why would he have the authority to actually authorize a ceasefire? Is he negotiating on behalf of Antifa? Do they work for him or listen to what he has to say? Apparently they do. And now Donald Trump is talking about taking out the heightened presence from Portland. Maybe that makes sense. Maybe he got his message across. I'm not entirely sure. We've seen protests and riots across the country since then. People have still been attacking and trying to vandalize statues, although things have died down quite a bit. So I want to read you the latest on what's going on. This is big news. Trump, federal agents pull out of Seattle. That's it. Straight up last night. The feds are out. What are they going to complain about now? But I've got to give one very important PSA to all of these activists who don't seem to understand anything about law enforcement or what's going on. First of all, let me just say, unmarked vehicles are used by police all the time for decades, for probably longer than decades. Yes, that's right. For as long as vehicles have existed, I'm sure police have had unmarked vehicles. Guess what else? Plainclothes cops exist. That's right. Sometimes you'll be walking down the street and there'll be a cop and you won't even know. You know why? Because he's wearing a t-shirt and jeans. It's called a plainclothes police officer. They exist. Not only that, there are undercover police officers. Why is anyone shocked that this is happening? But more importantly, I have to say this because this is one of the most annoying things I keep hearing and it never goes away. The police do not have to read you your rights when you are being arrested. That is a movie trope. Stop getting your news from movies. It's not how the real world works. I can't tell you how many times I've seen stories like this with the feds in Portland or the activists, and they're like, bro, the cops are arresting people and they're not reading their rights because they don't have to. Mirandizing someone, you know, when they say you have the right to remain silent, anything you say or do, that is for the legal protection of the police. It is for them, not for you, for them. They're trying to legally protect themselves in the event they want to go after more than just you, if they want to investigate. But if the police literally watch you throw a brick, they don't need to read you your rights because they know you did it. In fact, they technically don't even need to read you your rights. If you're out in a riot, they can be like, probable cause, we had reason to suspect, they were arrested. And if you start talking and then trying to argue later that, well, I wasn't read my rights, it still might not even work. The whole point of Mirandizing is, well, I don't want to say the whole point, but the gist of it generally is that they want to make sure that their arrest and conviction of you is clean and that you will have no arguments against them. So please stop pretending like unmarked vehicles is a new thing. Stop pretending like cops wearing regular clothes is a new thing, and stop demanding they read you your rights when that's their legal protection and they have no obligation to protect themselves from you unless they choose to. But that's like one of the big stories happening right now in New York. Apparently, during a protest the other day, an unmarked van pulled up and plainclothes cops, I don't think they were necessarily plainclothes. I think they were, but they were wearing like vests with police on it, pulled up and arrested one of these protesters, or I don't know what you would call it in New York, because New York really doesn't have rioting. I guess they have like raucous protest. I guess you can call it, it's hard to say because to be honest, like, is it a riot if a bunch of people are running full speed through the streets? No, not really. So call it whatever you want. But they arrested one of these people, and now there's like a big scandal where everyone's like, they didn't read this person their rights. Why is the NYPD snatching people up with unmarked vehicles? Like, dude, do you live in New York? Like, every vehicle from the cops is unmarked. Well, I guess maybe you don't notice. They have cabs in New York City. There are taxi cabs. They're actually cop cars. It'll look like a cab. And then you'll drive past, you'll see a bunch of cops in it, and you'll be like, hey, wait a minute, what's up with that? It's because they disguise cop cars as cabs. It's even worse than unmarked. So anyway, I digress. There's my PSA to all of you. Chill. But here's the real serious maneuver that's happening. The big major update. Federal agents are pulling out of Seattle, and thousands of protests in Portland for the 62nd night as the Trump administration holds talks to pull federal troops out. And it's revealed the city is fining DHS $500 every 15 minutes for the unauthorized courthouse fence. Good luck collecting on that. Trump's going to be like, all right, we'll pay up through the grant through the federal funds we're already giving you. Here's what we're going to do. That $1 million we're giving you in a grant for your law enforcement, we're going to cut that in half and then give you the half back to pay the fine. Congratulations. You can't get free money from someone and then say that they owe you money. They'll be like, oh, okay, I'll stop giving you the free money. I've paid you back. Let's see what's going on in Seattle. U.S. agents deployed to Seattle to protect federal property have left the city after local officials complained their presence was escalating tensions, Seattle's mayor said on Tuesday. U.S. tactical forces arrived in Washington state's largest city last week and were on standby to protect federal facilities after attacks on a federal courthouse in Portland, Oregon. Now, I got to stop. Listen, do you know why these were deployed? The federal officers were deployed because they were expecting violence over the weekend. Guess what? The weekend has long since passed. So now it makes sense that they're like, okay, weekend is over. We didn't see the big bad riots. We didn't need to come out. Everybody come on back. That's simple. That's simple. They keep trying to pretend like Trump is deploying, the secret police across the country. It's not happening. Mayor Jenny Durkan tweeted Tuesday that the Department of Homeland Security told her that U.S. Border Patrol Tactical Unit agents had left Seattle. DHS did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Then why was it that the other day she appeared on CNN saying we are seeing a dry run for martial law? Think about how duplicitous and deceitful these people are. The mayor knows full well Trump was like, all right, send them all home. There was no riot. We got to go. And she still wants to push the stupid narrative that Trump is trying to enact martial law while he simultaneously withdraws federal forces from a courthouse for which is their own jurisdiction. It's all a big lie, isn't it? A big game. You know what, man? Let me tell you. The Miranda thing really gets to me because it is the perfect example of all of these people being dumb as a box of rocks. And, I often don't try to be overly disrespectful, but you could at least Google search it. If you don't know, well, now you know. And if you didn't, why don't you just use Google? It's amazing. The summation of human knowledge accessed through a tiny little device you keep in your pocket, and these people don't have the wherewithal to actually do it. So they go around making claims about things that are not true. Trump is martial law. An unmarked van came. Have you ever, you know what? Look at it. I saw somebody, I made a comment and they said, why aren't they reading them the Miranda rights? And I was just like, stop getting your news from movies. I'm sure many of these people also think that silencers go pew, 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 because they've never actually investigated what these things really do. You see a movie and the guy puts in the silencer and goes, pew, pew. No, that's not how, that's not how suppressors work. Oh, they don't know that because they get all their information from movies. And in movies, they want to make the arrest look cool. So the cop will grab them and go, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say or do. Yeah. And that's what their basis for reality is. Think about how messed up that is, that we have a whole generation of people who base reality off of movie tropes that are meant to be shocking and sensational. Durkan is among Democratic mayors who have called for an end to violence at protests against racism and police brutality after Republican President Donald Trump used images of destruction for his re-election campaign. And there it is, Reuters. Good job. Yes, the Democrats immediately were like, stop getting violent. You're helping Donald Trump get elected. Think about how funny this is. A whole bunch of Democrat resistance type people started tweeting that these far leftists may as well be wearing Trump badges because they're helping him get reelected. And then all of a sudden, these stories started popping up. Actually, these people wearing black are Hell's Angels and white supremacists. I kid you not. There's a story right now going around that's claiming one of the dudes in Minneapolis who was going around smashing windows wearing all black is actually a Hell's Angel. And their evidence? Somebody heard from a friend and then swore in an affidavit that their friend said it, and that's it. Yeah, that's the evidence. No, oh, please, dude. No. That is not what's happening. What's happening is they finally realize, riots are bad, and they make Trump look good, and people trust police, and people like seeing the rioters get stopped. They like justice. So when everybody's trying to fight over fight for the justice video, right? Let me explain. People love it. This is what caused a lot of our predicaments today. They love it when you see a video of someone getting served comeuppance. There's subreddits, there's viral forums dedicated just to this. You'll see someone a bully will be yelling, And then someone will walk up and punch the bully in the face and they'll go, justice served, woo. People love it. That's what they want to get out of all of these videos. The rioters are fighting for justice, right? Uh-oh. Now people don't agree. Now the police are trying to quell the rioters. And where's the justice? The perception is on the side of the police. And it was bound to be because people just trust cops more. They can try and push the narrative over and over again that these are like Gestapo secret police. Sorry. So as soon as they realized Trump was using the destruction to help him, they were like, no, oh no. And now they're trying to accuse Bill Barr of helping Trump get re-election videos. And it's just the stupidest thing ever. So we understand all this, but let's jump over to Oregon. Donald Trump may actually withdraw the federal forces from the courthouse. I don't believe he would, but he's talking about it. Check this out. The Trump administration has initiated talks with the Oregon governor's office about withdrawing federal agents deployed to quell protests as Portland officials reveal the city is fining the government $500 every 15 minutes for erecting an unauthorized fence around its courthouse. The White House said it would agree to draw down the presence of troops if the state stepped up its own enforcement, an anonymous senior White House official told the AP Tuesday. Now, what are the chances that Portland will send out its own police? Probably slim to none. That's why I don't think Trump will actually be withdrawing from the courthouse. But look, man, I think Trump can play it fair and it won't matter. They will try to manipulate the game to the best of their abilities. Trump is doing the right thing. Okay, look, we can take out these DHS guys, but they're only there because your police are standing down. Bring your police back and we'll take our guys out. And they're going to be like, no. Because the Portland Police Bureau even put up an announcement like last week saying like, we are not engaging these protesters. It's not us. Don't look at us. We're not escalating. So if they won't come out and protect the courthouse and protect the downtown area, Trump will not withdraw forces. They say the news came as the city of Portland announced its own action against the deployment of troops by fining the federal government until it removes an unpermitted fence around the Mark O. Hatfield courthouse. Think about how insane that is. How insane it is that they're like, we understand you've put up a fence basically on your property. It is obstructing a bike lane because it's just off the sidewalk. To protect your building from violent insurrectionists who are lobbing explosives and starting fires, but we are going to force you to remove what is protecting your officers. You want to talk about escalation? That is escalation. Threatening the government with fines, although I really don't think they're going to have strong legal standing. We'll see how that plays out. Because the federal agents are trying to protect themselves. And yes, extreme violence is literally upon us. So maybe they do need a fence. And maybe, it doesn't matter. It's war, baby. I'm not going to pretend like it's the worst of the worst. On a scale of 1 to 10, it's probably a 1 or a 2. But it is. Two factions fighting for control of a certain area. The mayor of Portland is making it seem like he can negotiate on behalf of these people. Trump is willing to pull the troops out if they step up enforcement, but they won't. Why? They're suing the federal government. They're supporting these groups. The mayor literally joins them. Check this out. Man, 32, who set fire to Portland's police headquarters during the city's riots, is arrested after cops spotted his name tattooed on his back in security footage. What a moron. But so at least the police are arresting this guy, right? So I believe it's probably Portland police who made the arrest. A 32-year-old man has been arrested and charged with arson for allegedly setting fire to a Portland public building, a police headquarters, a public building. During the early days of the George Floyd protests in Portland, Edward Thomas Shinzing, 32, is accused of using fire to maliciously damage the city's Justice Center, which houses the Multnomah County Jail and the Portland Police Bureau headquarters. I have to imagine there were people in the jail. Was he trying to hurt them? And then we have over in Colorado, check this out. Protester, you say. 23 is arrested for attempted murder after he shot and wounded 2 demonstrators at a Colorado rally while aiming at a Jeep that drove into the crowd. Arrested for attempted murder. So you want to complain about unmarked vehicles and Miranda rights and all this other dumb nonsense and claim Trump's doing a trial run for martial law when your protesters, I'm protester in air quotes, are literally being arrested for attempted murder because they are shooting at people. You know what, man? I don't know what the solution to all this is. I think if Trump backs down, they're going to rush forward. I think we're going to see more and more of this. It's going to be this way well after Election Day. Well after. We're not going to know who won. I mean, unless it's like a ridiculous landslide where literally every vote is for Trump, which I doubt will happen. I think it's closer than people realize. But, you know, there's a lot of things happening that conspire to, and I mean this figuratively, you know, shift your perspective on who's winning and who's losing. And that's what it is. It's a propaganda war. You know, you see stories like this. I see stories about a guy being arrested for attempted murder who shot protesters. And I have to imagine regular people are saying, enough. We don't want this. But then you see other stories about people saying Donald Trump is a sick man. Literally, it's a quote from some voters, and that he's trying to enforce martial law and stuff. And there's a lot of people who are, you know, who want to vote against Trump. But I'll tell you what to me is the most worrying. The police in Portland may, well, not the police, the federal police may use tactics that some people don't like. They're being put in a decision dilemma. That's what the far left calls it. The idea is to make it so that no matter what they do, they will look bad. Lobbing explosives and injuring police. And then when they try and defend themselves, now they're the bad guys. That's the point. They like sneak up to you, hit you, and then as soon as you strike back, they yell, help, help, I'm being attacked. So you look like the victim. So they look like the victim. The cops look like the aggressors. It's the nature of the propaganda war, right? People are trying to act like the other side is the real big baddie. And that's why, you know, here's what I'm trying to get to. When I look at all the news all day, every day, and I see things like this, I'm like, the police clearly aren't the bad guys. You know why? Because the police have accountability. Maybe not perfect accountability. Maybe many cops often don't get held accountable for bad actions. But Antifa has zero accountability. Zero. If a cop does something and it's bad and people catch them, well, this cop is going to get in trouble. There's internal affairs. They will be held accountable. With Antifa, they literally all mask themselves in similar ways and then use these tactics to make sure no one will ever hold them accountable. Only the police will. The protesters, the violent ones, are not the ones holding the cops accountable. It's our own institutions. It's like this. A cop does something bad. Then all of these activists scream and chant. And then finally, the institution itself goes in and arrests the officer. Notably, what happened in Minnesota with Chauvin. The activists didn't grab him and detain him and carry him away. The police did that. The institution of law, our justice system did that. And the guy, in my opinion, is probably going to get some kind of conviction. We'll see how it plays out. They may have gone a little too heavy-handed on the charges against that guy. Because, whether they can prove some of these things. But when you look at the activists, there is not a single moment that I can point to where Antifa will stop some other Antifa. No, they're proud of their destruction, but rarely you will see some protesters like we did, I believe it was in D.C., where they grabbed the Antifa guy, threw him to the cops. It is rare when the activists hold the extremists accountable. And the extremists, they take charge, and the dumb people who get their views from movies and TV shows are the ones who now want to, are enabling these people, and they're going to vote based on all of this. So here's the point. If you think that unmarked vehicles are new and shocking, you need to read. You need to actually Google search things. If you think that cops not in uniform is shocking, then I need to introduce you to every law enforcement agency literally everywhere, all over the world. So who are these people who are so isolated and so insulated, they've never actually experienced regular policing? The reality is this is the epitome of snowplow parenting. That's why I'm not surprised many of these people who get arrested, many of these far leftists are suburbanite, college educated, making more than $100,000 a year, typically white. They're the people who grew up in the suburbs who never actually saw real police work. They've never seen someone get detained and searched. They maybe got pulled over and then started throwing a hissy fit because the cop was like, your taillight's out. That's not fair. I shouldn't get a ticket. Fine, ma'am, you get a warning. They're not used to actually being held accountable. It's like AOC said. She imagines reforming the police like the suburbs. People ask her, what do you think, abolishing the police or defunding them would look like? It goes, kind of like how the suburbs are. Are the suburbs as population dense as Manhattan? Are the suburbs as impoverished as parts of Manhattan where the crime tends to emerge from? No. These people are inept and clueless. And that's the truly scary thing to me, is that you can see the ones who get in office. It's almost like, I've mentioned this before, the internet has created two principal factions. I recently took the 8 values test. I take these tests all the time. I tweeted about it. Guess what it says? It says Tim Pool is a liberal. The closest political ideology is liberalism. Oh heavens. Isn't that surprising to anybody? I guess to the far left, they actually paid attention. But it said for the most part, I'm like a centrist, actually kind of progressive, actually kind of in favor of international diplomacy. And there you go. But here's what we see. People like me who would be a, traditional liberal standing side by side with someone who's like a Trump supporter, literally my buddy on the Timcast IRL podcast who was wearing a MAGA beanie last night, because we agree on certain things about what reality really is. Like you get arrested when you throw a firebomb at a police station. The other side doesn't because they have no idea what's going on, and perhaps they lack the cognitive faculties to actually break this down. Now, I'll tell you this. It's true that there absolutely are Trump supporters who also lack cognitive faculties. But the separation that's emerging is you've got a bunch of people who blindly support Trump and wave little MAGA flags and probably also don't know what's going on and don't care. You then have a large group of people who read the news every day and say something like, attempted murder is bad. The man should be arrested. But the other side, the bulk of it does have, it's an inversion, right? Check it out. Here's the way I see it. A certain portion of the right is mindless drones for Trump. But the larger portion is rational, reasonable individuals who watch the news, have a general understanding of what's going on, probably most of the people watching, and recognize that freedom and liberty is right now not on the side of the Democrats. And you may, whether you want to argue it's on the side of Trump or not, it's the best shot most people have at maintaining some kind of constitutional normalcy. The left is inverted. Most of the left are mindless drones who think you must be read your Miranda rights because they saw a movie that one time. But a small portion are very smart and active and weaponize the ignorance for personal gain. And they're very smart. They'll accuse me of doing literally what they're doing. Now, look, when I do a story on, say, the Democrats being charged with fraud, I'm proud of this. I said straight up, here's the Republican who was as well, and here's my reasoning for why I personally have this kind of bias. Oh, they don't do that. You'll see activists on the far left, I'm not going to name the guy, saying that Garrett Foster, I believe his name was, or Forrester or whatever, Foster, I think, the guy in Austin who got shot was unarmed. They lie, and it's overt. And you end up with a large faction of people who don't understand why unmarked cars are used, why their rights aren't being read, and they literally don't read the news. They just believe whatever trash is spit into their ears by these grifters. So yeah, there's a problem on the right of people who are kind of mindless zombies for Trump, but it's the smaller portion for the most part. There's a large, zealous base of Trump supporters. There's a lot of people who believe a lot of crazy things. But I'm not saying hard numbers. What I'm saying is the majority of people who right now are saying Biden is bad, who find themselves more likely to vote for Trump, are not all blind zealots. It's people saying this is the best chance we have, even with Trump's faults. And boy, there are many. Biden, if you vote for that man, you've got a death wish. Seriously, the dude doesn't know where he is. That's how insane some of these people are. They just read the news, they're told things by activists, and they roll with it. Well, we'll see how things play out, man, moving forward. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel, and I will see you all then.